You don't want to know what I heard. Browns draft.
I do.
Maybe you do.
Any new nugget.
If you think the Browns are going tackle wide receiver in the first round, I am told.
You know, Shedeur showed up to the workout sessions, took over the internet last week. Now this week, we thinking we finna get left tackles, wide receivers. They might not be getting either one of those early on. They is so asphyxiated on getting a new quarterback. This is startling, bro.
The Browns front office is in a panic now that Andrew Berry has been exposed. Someone from the inside leaked a draft plan that was so cold-blooded and well thought out that even die-hard Cleveland fans are starting to doubt everything they thought they knew about this team. Shedeur Sanders did not enter a fair process. He stepped into a trap. Did the Browns really want Shedeur Sanders, or was he just a pawn in a power game that he didn't see coming? Leave your answer in the comments right now, because what we're about to reveal will change how you think about the whole draft. The truth about what happened to Shedeur is worse than what the news said, and it starts right here. As soon as Tony Rizzo spoke, the whole Browns conversation changed. He didn't want to say it. He was unsure. He told the people in the audience that they wouldn't believe what he heard, and that one pause said it all. This wasn't just a rumor from some random online account. This was a real insider who was holding back a bomb. Everyone thought the Browns were looking for help on the offensive line. They got people talking about wide receivers. There were a lot of mock drafts going around. Analysts were focused on tackles and pass catchers, and none of it was real the whole time. None of it was part of the plan. Cleveland was doing something completely different behind closed doors, and almost no one outside that building knew what was really going on. Shedeur Sanders had already done what he needed to do. He came to the workouts and took over the internet. There was a lot of talk. People were excited. There was no doubt that he was popular. He dealt with everything that came his way with complete professionalism, and the public's reaction was huge. The story changed the very next week. People were suddenly talking about left tackles and wide receivers, as if Shedeur had never been there. It felt like the conversation moved on purpose. It felt planned, because it was.
Well, Andrew Berry said that if they do add a fourth quarterback, his lean is to add a younger quarterback. Now, he didn't say whether that was in the draft, trade, or signing, but I mean, you would think that would a young passer would mean in the draft. I don't think they're going to take one with one of their first round picks. I know that they brought in Ty Simpson for a 30 visit. They met with a couple other passers at the combine, but I don't think that they would go that high. I would think if anything, it'd be maybe like a day 3 pick, or maybe at the end of day 2, if they really like a guy and he's starting to fall. But really, the interesting part about Andrew Berry's comments to me was him saying that he thinks that they can find a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback that can compete to be the starter this year. That's what really took me for a loop. So is that Ty Simpson? Is that...
The Browns were secretly obsessed with getting a new quarterback, while the public was distracted by arguments about skill positions and offensive linemen. That obsession never went away. It never changed. The front office was focused on that goal the whole time, and Shedeur was the name that stood out most, whether anyone wanted to admit it or not. One insider said something that shocked me. Not surprising, not unexpected, surprising. People who were close to the situation were surprised by how obsessed Cleveland had become with fixing the quarterback position above all else. This group acted like the board was open to the public. They let the news go in 100 different directions. They let fans argue about things that weren't really important. That was a planned move. That group knew exactly what it wanted and didn't want to give anything away before draft day. Shedeur Sanders thought he was being judged like everyone else when he walked into this process. He wasn't. The Browns had a plan. People who worked there were starting to talk. And now, the full story of what really happened to Shedeur in this draft is starting to come out. Andrew Berry said something that no one in the media wanted to sit down with long enough to really understand. He said that the Browns were leaning toward getting a younger quarterback. He said it out loud. He wrote it down. But then he did something that showed a lot. He wouldn't say if that meant the draft, a trade, or signing a free agent. That lack of clarity was not an accident. Organizations don't talk like that on purpose. If a general manager leaves that much room in a public answer, it means the plan is already in motion, and he isn't ready to show it yet. Every analyst jumped to the conclusion that it meant a late pick, a gamble on day 3, or maybe a name no one has heard of. Before they even thought about it, they talked themselves out of the obvious answer. Shedeur Sanders was right there in this draft. He was available, talented, and had already proven himself at the highest level of college football. And for some reason, the talk kept going past him, like he wasn't there. The way insiders explained Berry's comments told a very different story than what the Browns wanted the public to hear. The idea was that Cleveland wouldn't use a first-round pick on a quarterback. They thought that if anything happened, it would happen late in the draft, maybe at the end of day 2 if someone started to fall unexpectedly. Someone came to see Ty Simpson. A few other passers had meetings at the Combine. It looked like a team doing its homework without really caring about it. But that surface reading completely misses what Berry really meant by all the careful wording. He said he thought they could find a young quarterback who could compete to be the starter right away. Not a backup, not a project, but a starter this year. That one piece of information changes everything about how this situation needs to be understood. And it points directly at a player with Shedeur's profile, more than anyone else in this whole class. It was a problem that the name Ty Simpson kept coming up. People really wanted to know if Ty Simpson was the answer to Berry's comments about finding a young starter who could compete. That question should never have been taken seriously. Shedeur Sanders worked out, dominated the coverage, and showed why he should be at the top of any real quarterback talk. If the Browns were never honest with the public about what they wanted, then the idea that they would settle for a late-round flyer while Shedeur was still available makes sense. Berry's words were careless because they opened a door that can't be shut again. He confirmed that they are obsessed with finding a young quarterback who can start. He said that the group thinks that player is in this cycle.
What are the odds this guy's going to hit the draft again, the second year in a row? I mean, he hit yesterday.
No doubt he hit last year.
He hit.
Riz, I'm not confident in it. Is it possible? Of course it is.
I think something is in the works. Somebody told me something to expect the unexpected, and in the back of my mind, I didn't want to think that, but I thought that.
Shedeur Sanders is the only quarterback in this draft who fits everything Berry said without making any compromises. The Browns were aware of it. They just wouldn't say it directly. That quietness was a plan. They were keeping a plan that had already been made safe. And every carefully planned press conference gave them more time before the whole truth came out. Shedeur Sanders didn't just show up for this draft. He was in charge of every part of it. The workout sessions were nowhere near close. He came in, did his thing, and left, without giving anyone a real reason to argue. He was right. He was calm. He knew a lot about football. There was everything a franchise quarterback needs to be able to compete from the start. And the people who worked there saw it with their own eyes. This was not a guess. This wasn't a wish. This was a player showing a team how their offense could work with the right person in charge. The Browns could see the answer right in front of them. They had a quarterback who was exactly what Berry said in public. They had a player that fans were already responding to. And instead of being honest about it, the front office kept avoiding the topic, as if admitting interest in Shedeur was somehow bad for them. This is a big betrayal. Every time Shedeur Sanders went to a Browns-related event, he risked his reputation. He acted professionally when other candidates would have walked away. He gave Cleveland every reason to feel good about taking a big risk. The fans were excited. The energy was real. Then the group turned around and let the story get lost in talk about tackles, receivers, and late-round quarterbacks that no one has ever heard of. That is not an assessment. That's manipulation. Barry's comments proved that the need was real. The leaks from the inside proved that the obsession was real. Shedeur's workouts proved that he was really good. Everything fell into place.
You have 6. Okay, Mendoza. All right, let's say Arville Reese. He one of 5 best players?
Yeah.
David Bailey?
Yeah.
Sonny Styles?
Yeah.
Caleb Downs?
Yeah.
Okay, who's left on the board? Because that's who you'll pick from.
And you've got Jeremiah Love.
Is he good?
He's
Chris?
good. You have Carnell Tate.
Is he good?
He is good. Reuben Bain
I'm
on
sorry,
the board.
you need offense.
Yeah.
You got Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Love sitting there. I don't know. Are they good?
Yeah.
Are they going to be Pro Bowlers for the next 10 years?
Yeah.
Well, what are we doing? I cannot figure out Andrew. I can't.
Somehow, the Browns still managed to make this story more complicated than it needed to be. That's the part that hurts. Shedeur should have gotten a straight answer from a group that already had one. Everyone could see the board right there. The best receivers were gone. The best names were not on the list. There were still good players and solid players left, but no one in that room could honestly say that Carnell Tate or Jeremiah Love would be the face of a franchise for the next 10 years. That doesn't mean anything bad. That is just how things were with the draft at that time. The Browns had their best chance right in that window. Shedeur Sanders was there, a quarterback who had already shown he was good, gotten people excited, and passed every test the team gave him. The choice was right there on a silver plate. Any front office that was completely clear and had no outside interference would have made that call without thinking twice. Cleveland, on the other hand, was unsure. They looked at the board, saw the opening, and still couldn't make the most logical move in front of them. Fans weren't the only ones who were upset. People who were close to the situation also couldn't figure out how the decision was made. Nobody knew what Andrew Berry was really up to. No matter how you looked at it, the logic didn't make sense. You don't draft a quarterback who has a good chance of becoming one. You look at a board full of receivers who could be good, but aren't guaranteed to be stars. You need something at the most important position in football. You have a prospect who directly met that need, and you still leave with nothing after making the most important decision of your offseason. That series of events doesn't show that a general manager is free to do what they want. That shows that someone is being ignored. That sounds like someone who is being second-guessed by a higher up in the building about their own evaluations. Andrew Berry might have wanted something completely different than what he got before the pick was even made. When Jimmy Haslam's name came up, everything started to make more sense. The owner is the last word, the person who can't be overruled by the general manager when things get too tense. This group has a long and painful history of making quarterback decisions that seemed strange at the time, but turned out to be disastrous. The scouting department didn't come up with that pattern. That pattern comes from being the owner. Shedeur Sanders was a clean break from that past. He stood for responsibility, skill, and real excitement at a position that has hurt this team for years. Not picking him was not a football decision. It was a choice of power. Someone at the very top of that company looked at everything the staff had done and decided to go in a different direction anyway. People who are closest to the process are now openly pointing fingers up, and the same name keeps coming up. Cleveland is already feeling bad about it, and it started the second that insider opened his mouth and told everyone how this company works. Shedeur Sanders deserved better than a front office that was never really in charge of what it did. Sign up for more. Do you think the Browns just made the biggest mistake of the decade? Like this video and let me know in the comments.